time to play. Coach Rene and Matt lead the way. Radical MMA brings the heat. The martial culture podcast can't be beat. Punches fly, minds collide. Technique and heart side by side. Tune in now, don't hesitate. The martial culture podcast, great and straight.
I'm going to abrupt.
All right, let's go. This is fantastic. So, how are you, Mr. Matt Peters?
Fantastic. How are you?
I'm great. Now, did you get a chance to see any of the last UFC?
No, I saw the little thing on Google that said who won and who lost.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
So, I have to say, I thought that the Jack Della Maddalena fight, the JDM fight versus Makachev, would have been closer. I really did think that. And it's because JDM is a very good martial artist and he's well rounded. I mean, he's very good, and obviously a better striker. But Makachev won every single moment of that fight. Every single moment.
He's hard to beat.
Yeah. And you know that he was so smart. So if you're a boxer, Matt, to be good at boxing, what do you think are some things you really need to be able to do?
Be okay with injections of steroids.
Aside from cheating.
Footwork.
Footwork. Exactly. 100%. Yeah. You cannot be a technical boxer without advanced footwork. Makachev, they touch gloves, they go out, boom, boom, boom. Calf kicks to his leg. The first round, he threw 10 vicious calf kicks at JDM's legs. Damn. And while everybody's saying Makachev's grappling was better and this and that's absolutely true, but he destroyed his ability to get his boxing going by crushing that front leg. That first round, it's repeat, boom, 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 boom. And you just see, I haven't seen this in a long time, but there are parts of the fight where JDM looked like he was going to cry. No, I mean, literally, he's grimacing in incredible pain, frustration, just looks like he's going to break down and cry. And, you know, this is a very confident guy. Very, very confident. And before this fight, he was, you know, walking around. Even before the fight starts, he's, you know, like, and then you see him by the third round is when it really turned. I mean, he got taken down and dominated. Couldn't get up. Got taken down, dominated. Do you know what Makachev's takedown success percentage was for this fight?
80%.
Nope, higher.
Oh, 96.
Nope, higher.
100?
Yes, 100%.
That's impossible.
He got every single takedown.
Jesus.
Every time he shot, and he took him down. And the thing was, he didn't even have to chain wrestle that much. Wow. And people are saying, oh, JDM didn't practice wrestling defense. Man, I'm sure this guy has. It's very hard to defend a takedown when your calf has been turned into mincemeat. Yeesh. You know, it's like really hard. Yeah. And also, Islam and the Dagestanis have a very interesting style of grappling that JDM's coach, Greg Jones, talked about how it's different, and he makes fun of it. He has some things that they go, they're just copying George St. Pierre, and it's just Canadian wrestling, and he just makes some funny comments, but he understands it's different because it's MMA wrestling, and it doesn't conform to the rules of folk style or freestyle or Greco-Roman. It's kind of a blend, and this is how a lot of grapplers train in the former Soviet Union. In Russian, forget my bad pronunciation, but a lot of times they say borotsa, which means like wrestling, you know, grappling. And they mix sambo techniques with judo techniques with wrestling techniques. And you can see that very much imprinted on the way Makachev does his takedowns. He doesn't do a takedown like a freestyle wrestler. So he shot in JDM. This was a beautiful sequence. And I actually was teaching in my class last night. So he shot in on JDM. Then he got a single leg. But a lot of times when you use the single leg, if you're grabbing towards the knee first, the guy can punch you in the face. That is a very big difference between freestyle wrestling and MMA wrestling.
Sorry.
No, you okay?
I don't want to sneeze.
Oh, go ahead.
No. Mind over matter. No sneeze.
This is a sneeze free zone. We are not.
I sneeze pretty aggressively. I don't want to scare the listeners.
Wake him up.
Yeah.
So he shoots in. Unfortunately, gets a little too shallow, gets on the knee. But then what he does is something very smart. He switches from wrestling to what we call judo knee tap, which one of the most famous fighters to ever do it, Fyodor Emelianenko, was his main thing. He does the judo knee tap. But then JDM moves his foot a little. So then he does a trip. So he goes three moves in the span of a half second, all of kind of like different styles of attack. So one is grab the leg. The other one is a collar off balancing. And the last one was an old school, beautiful Japanese judo trip. So entry was wrestling. Then it became like upper body judo, and then it became lower body judo.
Jeez.
I was like, whoa.
How many moves?
Yeah. And you can see JDM, he was like, fuck. He's like, what?
This is really mixed
I
martial
thought
arts.
we were wrestling and now we're doing judo. I thought we're judo. What do I do? I don't know. And
He's mashing the buttons.
yeah, he's mashing the buttons, right? and unfortunately his like flawless victory.
Yeah.
You know,
Dang.
but it was unbelievable. And then you see it. I mean, literally, JDM was doing these like, oh, like that. You feel sorry for the guy. A lot of the commentators were saying, I just felt bad for him because he looked like he was in so much pain and frustration. And then his corner started yelling at him. He's like, come on, put your hands on this guy, bro. Blah, 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 blah. And he's like sitting there like, dude, I'm trying. And he's looking at his corner like a child being, scolded by his parents. And he's just sitting there. His shoulders are slumped. He's looking down. And even the corner goes like, look like a champ. Start, he's like, and like at that moment, it was, and Makachev said, like, he said the minute the first takedown happened, he's like, oh, this guy's in for a bad night.
Wow.
Because he's like, that being said, to JDM's credit, he defended every single one of Makachev's submission attempts very well. And he was in it. He was trying. He just couldn't get anywhere. And you know what really pisses me off, Matt? That a lot of people are saying, oh, it's a boring fight. It's a boring fight, dude. It's a boring fight. Like, this is the problem with these like casuals, right? Is that they have no appreciation of the subtle back and forth of the chess game. And it's true in striking too, because if they're not like in front of each other brawling, they're like, that's boring. Like when you play like a defensive game where you need a lot of footwork. But martial arts should be about the chess game, meaning I'm using my brains, my tactics, my strategy, my training to outwit you. And of course my physicality too, but it's not like a tough man contest. You want to do tough man contest, go do power slap or something. I don't know. Like just those morons watch, this is something different. And if you cannot appreciate, there's this one sequence too, the JDM, I'm talking about Makachev, right? But JDM did a beautiful defensive structure. So he got taken down. He does this thing called knee shield where he puts his shin against Makachev's waist, grabs him, and then tries to toss him to his left. But he knows, or actually to his right, tries to toss him to his right. He knows Makachev is going to defend. So then he tries to toss him to his left using Makachev's energy. And Makachev's feet go up in the air like in a handstand. You're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And then Makachev does this flutter step leg cartwheel thing and just goes, nope. And it was like so technical on JDM's part. It was so beautiful. And then Makhachev's like, nope, nope, I'm not gonna have it.
Wow.
It was a display of beautiful. You guys got to watch that sequence. Beautiful technical acumen from both fighters. But no matter how hard you train, you can't out wrestle a guy who is. You can't really replicate unless you train with people who grew up in this sort of former Soviet Union style. Very hard to replicate it. Mm-hmm. And then the second thing is the guy's been doing it since he was a kid. You know, like this is just, you know, like, I mean, you saw the videos of Khabib wrestling bears in 4, you know, like that's not a joke. He really did. You saw the video, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like.
I wrestled bears in the Lower East Side, but that's a whole nother story. A gay term for men.
Oh, I didn't understand. I didn't understand that. I thought you meant actually bears.
No, just big hairy men.
Oh, right.
Sorry.
So
that's another story for another podcast.
All right, yeah. So that was.
That's amazing. I'll have to check out the highlights of that one.
And how's
he doing? Is he sad after that loss? It's got to be really demoralizing.
Demoralizing. He didn't do an interview after he lost. He didn't do it. He just walked out of the ring, and he looked so dejected. Mm. And you know, it was people are saying the same thing they said about Duplessis. That no matter how hard Duplessis trains, he'll never unthrone Khamzat Chimaev. Just the level of grappling was different. And they're saying the same thing about JDM. But I'll say those two fights are different. You didn't see the Duplessis fight, right? So legitimately, there could be some criticism in that fight because Khamzat was playing it a little safe. He was like, taking him down, dominating him like it was before. But he was playing it a little safe. And I think that's because that was Khamzat Chimaev's very first title match. And it was an up and away class, which he didn't have a lot of experience in. And also Khamzat Chimaev, as I said many times before, actually, because he has so many first round wins, you look at the amount of time he spent in the cage, it's very small. So he's really great. But in terms of cage time, he's still kind of a novice. Mm-hmm. And, you know, you could tell that moment was kind of getting to him. He says, like, I'm not going to take any risks. I'm just going to play it easy, play it safe, and I'm going to kind of like coast to victory. I mean, I understand that. I think a lot of people were a little bit like, why didn't he put the, you know, kibosh on him? But, you know, you're also dealing with DDP, who is unbelievably strong. But who also sucks shit on the ground. Like, he sucks. He's just a fucking gorilla. Like, he sucks. Like, he sucks on the ground. And he's just doing stupid crap. And Khamzat Chimaev is just like cracking up. And he's like, nope. But JDM and Islam was very different. JDM is skilled. He prepared. He's not a novice grappler. He really prepared. But it almost breaks you harder because you did all this work, all this preparation. You're very technical. You brought in the best coaches, and you still get smoked. That is a rough place to be, you know? Yeah. But it just shows that, you know, MMA wrestling is not folk style. It's not freestyle. It's not Greco-Roman. It's its own thing.
It's MMA.
And yeah, especially with the cage too.
They're gonna have to make a whole nother UFC division just for those Dagestani guys. It's not fair anymore. Did you train in Dagestan? Well, you have to fight over here. You can only fight each other.
Well, you know, for a while, I think it was a little like that because they didn't get out of the M1 promotion. M1's like the Russian UFC. Yeah. I don't know if it's still around, but you know, they would just fight each other and they wouldn't get any play in the West, and then suddenly the floodgates open, and there's just tons of them now.
That's all I hear about these days.
And but you know what? It's an arms race. So you're obviously familiar with the arms race between America and the Soviet Union. You know, the guy develops these ICBMs, we develop that. They develop this, we develop that. And you know, that's the way all warfare works. It works, and you come up with something new, and then I'm going to revolutionize and come up with something to counter what you do. And this is the growth of technology. It's the growth of warfare strategics. And right now we're in a place where people have not really found an answer for the dominance of that unorthodox, very MMA-oriented style that just makes the guys all over you. And the only people who can do it to defend against it are people who do it as well. Like Merab Derakhvili is a Georgian wrestler, and he fought Umar Nurmagomedov, Habib's cousin, and he was shooting way more takedowns than Umar was, like way more. Like, I mean, I don't know. This guy has probably shot more takedowns in his career than like all the UFC champions of all their fights put together. It's crazy. This guy just doesn't have any card and he shoots. So it's like you want to beat him, you got to join him. You have to do the same. You have to learn what they're doing and copy. And it's something we're trying to do in my academy, is that we're not freestyle wrestling, we're not folk style wrestling, we're not judoing, we're MMA wrestling in a way that is very effective, efficient, tactically sound, and keeps us from getting hit. So, but they're going to come up with some technology to beat it. And then it'll switch. Cause there's always these interesting growth of one type of fighting, and then people find a counter and another. First it was jiu-jitsu, then it was just the American wrestling game, and then everybody learned how to sprawl, and then it was like strikers like Chuck Liddell, and then everybody learned how to cage clinch them and shut them down, and then it was now it's the Dagestanis, just amazing. And when they were on the ground, Islam was doing beautifully technically stuff. He was doing incredibly high level, but all the techniques you're doing are pretty basic. They were just basics done perfectly. Yeah. That's the thing is, I was just listening to this interview with TJ Dillashaw, and it's really, really good one. He said, MMA jiu-jitsu and regular jiu-jitsu are different. He says, wait, you have this coach. He's like, I can teach you this, this, and this, but it doesn't work in MMA, so why are we doing it? And I'm like, exactly. That's what I've been saying for a long time. Don't train all this low percentage stuff that is single dimensional, meaning it works in a freestyle wrestling match or jiu-jitsu match or judo match, but it's not great for MMA. Let's look at MMA, see what the fundamentals are and how to put them together. And it's going to be radically different because, of course, it always mixes striking and grappling, which no other grappling sport does to any significant extent, with the possible exception of sumo. Sumo is the only grappling art that involves grappling and striking at the same time. Now, there's some striking arts that allow grappling, but a predominantly grappling art that allows striking is very, very rare. And it's basically just sumo and MMA. And even sumo, you can't make a closed fist. You have to do this. You have to do this one, these pushing with your hands forward, right?
Honda.
Yeah, and you can, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right.
100 hand slap, right?
Yeah, and then you could do this. And then, so it was amazing. Then Shevchenko absolutely did the exact same. I think one of the reasons why people said it was a little boring is because they saw the exact same fight 10 minutes before, because Shevchenko did the same thing to Wei Li. Wow. She just destroyed her. She just destroyed her. It was not even close. And that one, I was also surprised. Yeah. I was surprised. I thought Shevchenko was a little over the hill. And she proved that no matter, and this is something I know, but I thought maybe she was, but if you're a really good grappler, your longevity is fantastic.
That's true.
Yeah. And she was like, okay, I'm older, but I can out-grapple you. Sucks for you.
Finesse. Yeah.
But she did outstrike her too. She just had to reach. Wei Li was just not good for that weight class. And I also think, and yes, I'm going to say something very controversial. Many of the Chinese female fighters are punching way harder than they should. Way harder than they should. And that is very suspect. There's this one fighter, they call her Joker, and she punches like she's like 155 or 170 pound guy and she's 115 pounds. Like, it's not possible. Especially if you look at her technique, it's not even that good. It's not terrible, but it's nothing like, oh my God, her hip rotation is so good or something like that. Nah, it's like performance enhancing drugs could be one of the reasons they're doing well. However,
are there drugs they can hide?
That's the thing is,
psychological.
there's always, again, it's an arms race. It's always arms race of like, can you hide the drugs? And I'll tell you, there's some major sports complexes, like the Russian complexes, the Chinese, that are known for doping their athletes and getting away with it. I mean, there was the whole, Olympic scandal in that Russian city. I forgot what it was, but they all wound up being like doped up to the gills. Yeah. And the Chinese swimmers are doing so well. And like 5 years ago, I don't know exactly swimming. Someone had mentioned this to me. So let me preface with, I'm not an expert at swimming, but the Chinese swimmers were like nothing. And then 5 years later, they're like winning everything. That kind of reminds you of the East German swim team in the 70s and 80s. Like, there's a little something going on there. The technology of hiding. And then the same with Lance Armstrong. He hid it for so long. Yeah. So I think this fight, though, Weili was not able to enhance the way she usually does. If, obviously, she never tested positive for anything. So this is my speculation. But she just looked much, much, much more depleted than usual. She didn't have her pop. Usually, maybe this is an off day. And I don't want to say she's taking performance enhancers because obviously she never tested positive for anything. But she just looked like a child compared to Shevchenko. Wow. Part of the weight class was different, but also she just wasn't. This is a girl that picked up Shaquille O'Neal. Weili grabbed Shaquille O'Neal and hoisted him up off the floor by 2 feet. Shaquille O'Neal.
And he's heavier than he used to be.
Yeah,
too.
and he at that time she was like 120. Right? How do you do that?
It's like 4 times her weight.
Yeah, exactly, right. And she goes,
she's like an ant or something.
Yeah, exactly right. Like, come on, man. That's not supposed to happen. Yeah. But that being said, she never tested positive for anything. So it's just my speculation. But in this fight, she looked remarkably weak and she couldn't get anything going and she couldn't get out of anything. So it was an interesting, really interesting night. There's one other fight that I want to talk about. And it was unbelievable. Unbelievable. So this guy, I believe his name was Ewing. He gets 2-day notice to fight. 2-day notice. He's got to fight. It's Thursday. He's got to fight Saturday.
Yeah, in Madison Square Garden.
Yes, in Madison Square Garden. He's never fought in the UFC before.
What?
Yeah. So they call him up. They're like, let's go. And he's like, all right. And he's fighting a stone cold assassin knockout artist. Uh-huh. And you're like, well, this guy's just lamb for the slaughter. Damn. And he winds up looking. He comes out. I'm looking at him like, this kid is sharp. Pop, 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 head movement, this, that. I'm like, I text my guys. I'm like, this is what I want you to look like. Look at this kid. 2 days notice, depleted from weight cut and looking like Sugar Ray Leonard, old school, Bernard Hopkins, pop, pop, head movement, pop, 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 brrr, boom, wins the fight.
Damn.
Unbelievable with 2 days notice. Man, that is what martial arts is about. It's about anytime, anywhere, let's throw down. Yeah. I'm going to show you what my technique is made of. Wow. I was like, that motherfucker is just the best. I love this kid. Wow. It's like heart to the gills, guts, technique, spirit. And he just stood his ground and then technically outwitted him with striking and footwork and head movement and then grappling, everything. He was just great. Damn. And the other guy's like, fuck, that's not what I expected. He was like,
the other guy too, he prepared for a different fighter.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true. And that's true. But
still.
Yeah, but still, right. The other guy didn't prepare for anybody.
He didn't prepare at all.
He actually had a fight like a week before, like the week before.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he fought in like a low level show the week before, but he won very easily, I think, or something. So he had no damage. Yeah. But he was like, eating hamburgers and and Wendy's, like whatever, French fries or something. He's like sitting there relaxing, and then he gets like, oh crap, I gotta cut weight.
How do they find these guys? Like just last minute? Do they have a roster of people they can pull from?
Okay, so that's a very good question. So the UFC has a very, very strong developmental network that a lot of people don't know about. If you go on UFC Fight Pass, you'll see a lot of shows, or even on ESPN, you'll see a lot of shows that are related to the UFC. One of them is LFA, which we fought in. Another one is CES, which also radical guys have fought in. And there's a few others, but they're feeder shows to UFC. And when I was at LFA, I met Marcos Suarez, and he's, I think, the managing director or something. He has a title in LFA. I don't know exactly what it is, but he's up there. He's in the executive board, right? And he's there, and he's talking to us. And very nice guy too, by the way. But he's also one of the biggest MMA agents there is, and he has a lot of fighters, or used to have a lot of fighters in the UFC. And I don't know for sure, but I would suspect that the UFC has some minority shares or some interest in these things, these shows, and they have an idea that we're gonna use these shows to develop our talent. And you can see Dana White when he goes the Dana White Get Me a Fight or the Contender Series. Yeah, they Get Me a Fight. He's at those shows. He's at LFA. He's at CFFC. He's at CES. He's at some other ones, but there are a bunch. Uriah Faber has his own show in California, which is where this guy came from. It's called A something. I forgot. Like yeah. But he has a show, and that's a feeder. Yeah. So they're very smart. They knew they had to develop, like baseball, the AAA, AA leagues, the farm teams, and they did that. Smart. And that's why MMA is kind of healthy, because they constantly have a new generation of people coming up. The only thing is, I would say that Japan did this really well in the 90s, but doesn't was like they had this Shuto League. And the Shuto League was the best amateur development league I've ever seen. So it had class A, B, C for amateurs. You had to win a certain amount to go from class C to B, B to A. And then when you're a class A and you win, then you can go to pro. And it was very, very well done, and allowed people to really develop, and developed a huge amount of talent in the 90s from the Japanese fighters. Unfortunately, Shuto as a league is not quite as popular as it was in terms of, just the numbers of people participating. But America needs something like that, where it's like very organized grassroots. Right now we have tons of shows all over the place, and some are good, some are not. Some have rules one way, but then the other rules, like you go to different states, each state, the rules at amateur are different. They're like, okay, you can't reap. Okay, you can reap, but you can't heel hook. Okay, you can heel hook and reap. Oh, you can, but you can't toe hold, or you can't do this. Like every single time we go to a commission, we have to like, okay, what the exact rules here? That's not so great. Everybody should like have the same rules, like across the board. Because it'll make the town like nobody changes the rules by baseball from state to state. Mm-hmm. It's not like baseball in Illinois is different from baseball in Florida. It's different from baseball in New York. It doesn't work like that, right? Baseball's baseball, right? So we have to need something like that. But anyway, it was a great card that showed true excellence, and any freaking idiot casual that says it was boring needs to actually learn some MMA, right? And I guess we all appreciate the casuals' money to support the sport, but honestly, they did drive me nuts. Yeah, it's like, hey, you guys stop grappling. This is why I never go to UFC fights, because there's always some dumb guy, sitting in front of you. You stop hugging each other, like like that. Just put them up. Yeah, exactly right. Just give me a break. Shit. Yeah. Anyway, so that's that.
I saw a clip on Instagram, and when I saw it, I was like, oh, I gotta ask Rene about this. I'm sure you've seen these kind of clips, and it might be rage bait, I'm not sure, but it made me rage. But it was a guy, he went to like an MMA gym, and he says jiu-jitsu doesn't exist, and he says all you have to do is stand up.
Oh, Jesse Enkamp.
Is that him?
Yeah, the big guy, big blonde,
big,
big guy,
bald.
Yeah.
What the hell is that? Like he's demonstrating it, and some guy's got him in something, and he stands up. I'm sure it's all faked or like whatever, but is that a thing? Like,
Okay, so Jesse Enkamp is also a little interesting. He's mostly represents karate, but he is an influencer. His brother is actually a incredibly skilled MMA fighter who is really, really good at jiu-jitsu. So I think there's the clickbait aspect, but there's also the other thing of there's a flaw in jiu-jitsu, and you used to not have this flaw. So I take you down and I hold you down. And this is one of the things the Dagestanis are great at. And you can't get up. We saw that with Jack Della Maddalena. They can't get up. In jiu-jitsu training today, that game doesn't exist, because if I take you down and you kind of just get up and walk away, you get like stalling penalties. Like we're supposed to grapple on the ground. So everybody's like, yeah, don't run away from the ground game, because then the ground game doesn't happen. But because of that, you don't get understanding of how to control people, because like, you're going to grapple, I'm going to grapple. Okay, we agreed to grapple. This is what strikers used to complain about in the early UFC. It's like, why won't they trade with me? Why won't they strike? Well, look, why do I have to? I just can double leg you, right? But then that's what we call the strikers agreement. You and I agree to do a kickboxing match. No, thank you. I'm going to do a double leg. But then there's also the wrestler or the grappler agreement. You and I are just going to agree to grapple. So if you do the strikers agreement, you lose the ability to learn how to defend takedowns. If you lose the grapplers agreement, you lose the ability to hold people down who don't want to be held down. And that is an incredibly important part. Now, and this is where the Dagestanis excel at this, because everybody's trying to stand up and they just bring them right back down. Try to stand up, bring them right down. And Mirab, in his fight against Corey Sandhagen, was really like like I said, this guy took him down every single time. To Corey's credit, he got up again, but then he just got taken down again. He got up, got taken down again, and he got dominated. And Corey Sandhagen is very, very skilled. I think he probably should have gotten up a little differently. JDM also very skilled. Tried to get up, couldn't. Well, a couple of times he did. But it's something we work all the time. You are not going to just sit there and allow me to grapple you if you can just stand up. That is legitimate. So while I think there's a little clickbait, there's a kernel of truth there, because modern jiu-jitsu has a huge flaw that if you don't agree to do jiu-jitsu, right, it's very hard to keep that guy in that realm. You need to keep him in that realm if you want to dominate him there. Yeah. And he's not necessarily going to agree to do that. And that being said, the highest level sports jiu-jitsu practitioners are extraordinarily skilled in many different disciplines, in many different areas. So I'm not painting everybody with a brush. I'm saying it as a general trend, particularly not at the highest level, but at the B and C level. Yeah. So what do I mean is like, everybody tells me this, but like, oh, the guys today are better than they've ever been. And it depends what we're talking about. If we're talking about sport jiu-jitsu, yeah, okay, I agree with that. If we're talking about MMA, no. Most sport jiu-jitsu guys right now can't do MMA. When I started jiu-jitsu, every single guy who's doing sport jiu-jitsu was like just gonna do MMA, like, or Valley Tudo, what we call that, no holds barred. That was an integral part of the DNA of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. It was like, we tested out in no rules. That's the goal. The eventual goal is this. That's not the goal anymore. The goal is compete in this pajama wrestling sport, right? You know, we put on our pajamas and we wrestle, right? And we all agree and we have fun. And there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you understand what it is. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with tennis, as long as you understand, well, tennis is tennis, it's not football, right? I'm not interested in pajama wrestling. I'm interested in violence, human violence. And this guy is going to do everything he wants to do to not let you do that thing to him. Yeah. So you have to be able to impose your game and hold him down. Would
that make like someone that trains jiu-jitsu and they're not having that, like, learning how to keep people down, that makes it very almost dangerous to take jiu-jitsu in a self-defense, because if you're being attacked by someone, they're not going to let you hold them down. Yeah, if they can get away from it.
Right. And most jiu-jitsu guys don't even have good takedowns anymore either.
Damn.
So they can't take the guy down and they can't keep him down. Like, what are you going to do? You're just going to get punched in the face.
Yeah.
Better have some good boxing, buddy.
Wow.
Better have those hands up, bro.
That can be very dangerous.
yeah,
Like you,
no,
you walk into a situation like, I'm a big tough guy, I take jiu-jitsu classes, and then like you're rocked.
Yeah.
Damn.
And we see this happening with all martial arts, is that they come from a very strong fighting culture. And then as they get more and more popular, they tend to become more sedate, more sanitized, less about fighting and more about their own individual sport. And you could see this with every single martial art. MMA is one reason why I'm interested in MMA. Like I'm not in any of the worlds. I'm not in the karate world. I'm not in the jiu-jitsu world. I'm in the MMA world, because MMA is MMA, right? You can't really water it down that much, because then it doesn't become MMA, right? So everybody's going to grapple, they're going to punch, they're going to kick, they're going to do, you don't know what they're going to do. That's great. Yeah. There's no like sanitation. Like the guy can do whatever he wants and you can't complain about it because it's MMA, as long as it's not eye gouging or something, right? Yeah.
Question about, like, we talking about culture of violence a little bit. Like, is there, like back in the day, there was the Spartans, and they were like, they were known to be a warring culture, and they trained all the time. Is there a group of people, excluding the Dagestanis, is there a group like culture that is like, that's their way of life that you can think of like now that would be a good analogous to like Spartan culture?
Well, okay. So Spartan culture is a very interesting example. First of all, they were fascists. They're a fascist slave dictatorship. I mean, like, they had a bunch of slaves, the Messenians, and they were a fascist dictatorship. It was like really bad, right? Yeah. I mean, they had the E4, sort of like council of elders, but they were a militarized society, and nobody had to do any work in the beginning. It depends what era you're talking about, but nobody had to do any work except train. That's all they had to do all day. And as a kid, you went into the agoge, which was this like, school of violence. It's like boarding school of death.
Like Harry Potter, but
yeah. It's like Hogwarts for killing people. And it's interesting because they would tell the kids to go into the community and go steal. And then if you only get punished if you get caught. Because it's like the thing is not stealing. The thing is getting caught, because like, say you're behind enemy lines, but you have to survive and you have to go and steal. It's like, so they would actually even incentivize them to kill some of the slave population, right? Like it was really terrible. Yeah. So the samurais were not so different. The samurais were class, and Western knights too, Western class supported by feudalism, which gave them time to train all the time. If you need time to train if you want to get good. And this is why America has a standing professional army, not a draft. Because when you draft people, they're going to be really crappy soldiers because they never trained before. Right.
Farmers.
Yeah. and so we have a standing professional army of people who are dedicated to their craft, and we pay them through our tax dollars and stuff like that. Knights were the same thing. They were supported by the land so that they could protect everybody. Beginning, right? Obviously, they became very exploitative. Japanese samurai too. They had all these. Every samurai was allotted a certain amount of rice farms, which supported his ability to make money. And again, this depends on the era. It's very different. There's also later on, there's tons of poor samurai and things like that. But the simple fact is, if you want to get good, you need to have time and money and resources. And that's true in MMA today. If you don't have time, money, and resources, it's very hard to get good. So I have one student today, and he's a great kid, but he's struggling a little financially. So he has to take a little time off of training because, man, he's got to pay his rent. He's got to eat. Like, I'm like, if you can't eat, pay your rent and get health insurance, man, your career is going to be rough. Now, there's some cultures where this is easier. I think Dagestan, because it's very traditional, first of all, everybody wrestles. Everybody wrestles. It's part of their culture. Like basketball in America or football, whatever, baseball, right? That they wrestle, right? So everybody wrestles. But the other thing is, it's so communitarian that there's a lot of internal support systems in these small towns. And Khabib's dad did it amazingly. He created a school and he said, all you guys, I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to make sure that you guys have food and clothing and a place to train and whatever you need, healthcare, and all you got to do is train. And that's one of the reasons they're good. It's because this guy had this vision of, you know, developing kids from a young age and giving the support tools they need. And I don't know what his resources were like. I don't know financially what he is, but obviously he took in a large number of people and supported them and developed them, right? It's not just Dagestan. It's literally Abdul Manap's vision for his family and his extended family, like Khabib, Umar, Usman, Islam, all these guys. They all grew up together. They're all like cousins and friends, and you know, and they've been training since they're kids, and they never had to worry about a, you know, part-time job, anything like that. You know, I don't actually know exactly how it worked, but I know he created that place for them to do that. And I would say it's very hard in the modern world because it's just people need to eat and sleep and things like that. But there's certain places where types of fighting culture are part of the DNA of that place. Like I was told that way back, not today, but way back when in the Philippines, in certain parts of the rural area, everybody were knife fighters. That's all they did. They were knife fighters, and there would be duels to death all the time. You weren't like Wild West. You walked around with a gunslinger or something, right? But this is knife fighters. Everybody walked with a machete, and everybody trained. Everybody trained all the time, and not all of the Philippines, but it's just certain areas, right? And that's what they did. They so it was so culturally endemic, so put in the DNA of that place that growing up there, you naturally get access to tons of teaching and probably don't have to pay for it. And, you know, you just hang out with your family. Yeah. The best time to learn martial arts and get really good is between 6 and 18 because you don't have a job. Yeah. Generally speaking, you don't have to go to school and stuff, but you know, you don't have a lot of worries if you're lucky, obviously. There's a little privilege there. I would say the other country, which is very interesting, is Mongolia. The Mongolian book, which is Mongolian Grappling, wrestling, is, again, every male kid does this in Mongolia, I've been told. I've never been to Mongolia. But it's just like the thing that everybody does. And Mongolians are kind of amazing in that they're in every single grappling discipline at the top. So they're top of the food chain in judo, the top of the food chain in freestyle and wrestling, they're top of the food chain in Greco, they're top of the food chain in sumo. Like they're literally demonstrating their ability to segue into all these different grapplings. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of Mongolians in ONE FC. Fighting there. It's interesting. Do you remember we were talking like a couple months ago about this TV show on Netflix, which I think everybody should watch? It's called Physical 100. So what they did is it's a Korean show where everybody like does all these physical challenges. They took the best athletes, martial art this, football player, basketball player this, and they put them together and see like who has the best overall, like physical talent. But then they did the new one. The new season is countries. Japan versus Korea versus Mongolia versus Australia and versus a bunch of other ones. And they had a huge amount of MMA fighters. Robert Whitaker was the key coach of the Australian one. Stun Gun, Don Yun Kim, was the head of the Korean thing. Yushin Okami, the famous MMA fighter, was the head of the Japan. So there's like great amount of MMA fighters. Now, the Mongolian team comes and you see like, holy crap, these guys are amazing. Like there's this woman in there, she's a judo champ. You're looking at her like, oh my God, that woman is scary. Like literally, like holy crap. Wow. Like this girl grew up grappling her whole life. She's like traps out to here and like you're like, whoa. Wow. And then she was really skilled. And she's wrestling this guy, like they have this scrum of this one of the events, right? This guy grabs her and she's like, and just tosses the guy. I'm like, whoa. So you could just see like the level of grappling skill is just generally there. I'm saying every Mongolian grapples, but a lot do, and they can get really good. There's just cultural support from it. But again, it comes down to like grassroots, healthcare really comes down to a lot of like if you don't have good healthcare, you're in trouble. Good food, nutrition. You need to have, you can't be a good fighter if you're hungry.
Yeah.
Can't be a good fighter if you don't have good healthcare.
You think it's like comes down to like different places of the world, like if danger and violence is an everyday thing, you obviously have to, like you're saying, in the Philippines, everybody that knew how to knife fight because they had to, because they needed to defend themselves. So like in parts of America, it's relatively safe.
Yes.
So there's not going to be a need to learn self-defense.
Absolutely, 100%.
So then that
exactly
kind of just goes away.
No, exactly right. I would say the culture you're talking about right now is not is exactly what you said. Is not something we're generally familiar. But what do you think is, in terms of street crime, not warfare, but street crime, the most dangerous major city in the world? It's hard to tell, but I'll tell you what it is because I know exactly what it is. It's Johannesburg.
Really?
Yeah. Johannesburg has like so much crime, kidnapping, like it's crazy. Then the townships developed their own knife fighting art called Piper, which is basically, I'm going to assassinate you.
Damn.
And it's like crazy effective, brutal, and they have these like crappy knives that are like not even good because they're all poor, but they're like almost like old school shavers, right? And they call it pipe because of pipe, the way they stab you, sort of like a sewing machine stab. And they developed this township assassination martial art, and they all go around and like literally you have to learn it if you want to live. You just do, right?
Necessity.
Yeah, and all the more wealthy citizens have these like crazy amounts of security. Like their houses are like bricked in castles with tons of security because you're going to get a home invasion and you're going to get killed. Like it's just like crazy, really out of control. It's a failure of, unfortunately, the South African government to control the crime and the homelessness, the unemployment, things like that. It's just a lot of massive social problems collapsed in. And then everybody develops these like, assassination knife fighting techniques, which is actually kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I find it interesting, but it's also absolutely, from a human scale, horrific.
Yeah. Wow.
Just a huge amount of tragedy there, So yeah, I would say, if you're going to say what's the place where it's like completely Darwinian survival of the fittest, because the amount of government, the law enforcement, the presence of structured laws and rules is pretty much collapsed on a significant basis to a good part of the population is Johannesburg. Not South Africa completely, but Johannesburg particularly. It's like this dead zone of like, it's like you don't remember it because you didn't grow up in there, but there was a time where you just would not go to East New York. If you went to East New York, you would, and you're not from there, and you don't know your way around, you don't know someone, you're not coming home. Mm-hmm. And the same thing, like South Bronx was really bad, and the same thing in the favelas in Brazil. There's like a reason why jiu-jitsu developed, because in the 80s, 70s, 80s, Brazil was really, 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 they had a coup and a government dictatorship, tons of social problems, crack epidemic. The favelas became these like lawless areas. And there was actually a big battle recently where the military went into this favela and just like crushed them because the favelas were like running their own government, and just lawlessness. So martial arts do breed in that. The reason why Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu got really good is partly because of the culture of like craziness that existed in Rio. Like every Brazilian I've ever met from that time, they're all little nuts. They all have like some PTSD. Wow. And they're like, yeah, I've been in about like 700 street fights. I'm like, what? Oh my God. It's like, yeah, you don't want to fight at all. You're probably getting into a fight a day. You do want to fight. You'll probably get 10 fights a day. That's one guy told me that. He's like, yeah, you want to fight, then you're going to get 10 fights a day. I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, I was shot at. I was stabbed. This. I'm like, holy crap. Like that's why they were like so real back then. So anyway, it's kind of an interesting topic.
Yeah.
So looking forward to some of the fights coming forward, and Devin's going to be fighting in a few weeks. And this weekend we have the red and white tournament at Radical, which is our tradition. It's a tradition of Japan, Kohakuji, and it's the whole gym, the entire gym separates into two teams, the red team and the white team, and we fight each other for 4 hours straight in different rule sets. And then we're also going to do some fun things like tug of war and stuff like that. So it's a really big Saturday for us. It's going to be a lot of fun.
That's fun.
My wife is making some Japanese food afterwards. It's going to be great, you know.
Wow.
So anyway, it's going to be a big weekend. I'll let you guys know how it goes next week.
Beautiful.
Yeah. We've done it 2 times before, and it's been a huge success. It was great.
How's the prep for Devin coming? Is he
Good,
ready?
really good. Yeah, really good, looking good. You know, on the comeback trail.
Yeah.
You know,
He's fighting.
Yeah. He's fighting this like very, very skilled striker who also has some grappling experience, but very skilled striker, and we're really looking forward to it.
Is that the one that's going to be on the aircraft carrier?
No, that one fell through, unfortunately. Yeah. Unfortunately, we couldn't get an opponent. Yeah. All right, and thank you so much.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'll tell you how things go this weekend.
Looking forward to it.
Bye-bye, everybody.